Welcome back to Frankly Speaking. I'm your host, Frank. Thanks for joining me tonight. And guys, tonight, I want to talk to you about woke Christianity. In fact, this is a podcast request I got for a friend of mine as she was asking me, what my thoughts on this were. Now, I believe my friend, a good friend of mine, a very wonderful lady that I really admire in many ways. I believe she's a Protestant, so I'm going to come at this from from a Catholic angle. It's the only way I can really come at it to explain how we Catholics see it as wrong, particularly because it's a byproduct of religious liberty in America. And so now part of the issue, of course, is when you're talking about woke anything in the society, whether it's woke politics or culture or even Christianity, as funny as that is, actually, there's certain things here on YouTube that I can't touch because we have, certain limitations on certain issues, right? I think we can all speculate what that is. And so I'll approach it more from a historical perspective and try and give light on it, how Christianity in America and really all over the world since the Enlightenment has devolved into a chaotic mess of contradictions, and how in many respects it's been captured like every other institution has by liberalism ultimately, right? Because this is the byproduct of post-Enlightenment society. And so let me see here if I can actually pull up the article here real quick. I believe I can. Is that it right there? Let's see here. All right. So what do we got here? No, wrong article here, huh? Okay, guys. Nope, it's right here. It's right here. Okay. So this is from a site called Conservative Fighter. I don't know what it is. You got a lot of these kind of second-rate conservative websites that people are kind of using as second and third source kind of things, and then reporting stories here. It's weird because you got all these side kind of ads and things like that are funky and creepy sometimes, and I hate it. But here we go. I think it's pretty clean, the site right now. So if you weren't aware, I'm quoting here, excuse me, quote, if you weren't aware, last Thursday was the International Transgender Day of Visibility. In observance, a church in Iowa offered a prayer written for the occasion. As seen in the video posted to the First Presbyterian Church website, Director Christian Education Anna Sheets introduced the April 3rd invocation. Thusly, this past Thursday, March 31st, was International Transgender of Visibility, Day of Visibility. In the PCUSA, we welcome all of our transgender and queer siblings into this family and relationship with the Creator of God. So today, I wish to pray a prayer that was written for this incredible day. Will you pray with me? And it goes on here, right? Oh God of pronouns, we give praise to the great one, the one who was unidentifiable as God. I am what I am, you say. The great, they, the incarnate, he, she, the God of trans being, impregnating Mary, fathering God, breastfeeding God of many breasts. You shatter all stereotypes. You make every single person male and female, intersex, non-binary, and in your image. Okay, and I don't need to go on here. Okay, it's a bunch of blasphemies. That's just the bottom line is what this is. And quite frankly, coming from a branch of the Presbyterian Church, it's not shocking to me. The Presbyterian Church went bad many, many decades ago. If you guys, those of you that follow Professor Scott Hahn, who's now a wonderful Catholic apologist, came from the Presbyterian sort of tradition. He told you how crazy pretty much the Presbyterians were going even in the 70s and the 80s. And so this is not shocking to me that we would see this. Now, in regards to, again, the issue at hand here, right? Let's call it the LGBT issue. I'm not going to comment on that. I can't. I'm limited here by the scope of what YouTube does, because of there's a risk here that I lose my show. But what I will say is this, is that this is the complete fruition of religious liberty in America. something that I myself have been talking about for a long time here, how in America it's kind of this strange phenomenon where, you know, for the past really 250 years through the concept of American religious liberty, you know, we've seen nothing but a whole host of splintering, fractured denominations of Christianity continue to pop up. Now, there's an argument out there that American religious liberties, as enshrined in the Constitution of the United States, are simply a conscience clause, which really follows what Catholic civilization always taught, right? That every individual has a right to follow their own conscience in regards to religion. And I guess if you want to look at it that way, you can, but from my part, I think the American people understood religious liberty, what it was in America, within one generation of really the Constitution of the United States being enshrined. I mean, you got the Mormons heading to Utah in the 1830s. You got the campfire preachers. You got who was that one guy? I forget his name now. The guy that was evangelizing down in the South. Oh gosh, I forget his name now. But really, Protestantism was spreading right away, with all kinds of contradictory denominations, of contradictory beliefs, doctrinal anarchy, and that's only really has continued to devolve over the past really, 250 years. And so now that we have a woke Christianity that is simply a reflection of our culture and our political chaos, I'm really not shocked. And if you look at Christianity in America, it has always been a byproduct of the culture at hand, of the social sort of fads of its day. And as social fads, or should I say, as the secular culture dictates sort of these new mores, particularly through government, oftentimes, as government has grown and grown and grown in America since the founding, religion, church has had to react to that, particularly Protestant churches. And so in that respect, I'm really not shocked here that we have a form of Protestantism that accommodates this. And I'm sure there's probably more forms of Protestantism. Now, here's what I'll say. There was a real big dichotomy shift when you look at Christianity in the old world and, again, post-Enlightenment new world, particularly in America, because a lot of these really funky, kind of strange Protestant denominations that have not only split 1,000-fold of sorts, but the concoction of these strange denominations is really an American phenomenon in many respects. And I think that's because we don't have a history of Christianity in America. It's really a religious belief and a religious system brought over from Europe, where in Europe we have much deeper roots, primarily Catholic roots. So even when Protestant churches are fracturing in Europe, there's, it's not always perfect, but you don't have the level of divisions and splintering and doctrinal chaos, even within Protestantism, as you do in America. It just goes bat excrement crazy in America, because in Europe, you always have sort of the light of tradition that always shines on European nations. That's why I've said it for a long time. If we're looking for some type of Christian revival throughout the globe, I believe it starts in Europe before it starts in America, because they have a history there, right? They have something to gravitate toward. They have ancestral roots there that they can look back and say, well, listen, this worked for our people back in such and such days. Where in America, we've always been that experimental ground for religion under the concept of religious indifferentism. And that's why there's nothing to gravitate back toward. And for that reason, it's why Americans struggle with cultural identity. It's why a lot of Christians don't know where to go oftentimes when they have sort of doctrinal sort of anarchy that hits them personally in a lot of different ways. They don't know how to find the one true church, because the one true church was never there in America, right? America being fundamentally a Protestant nation from its origins. But in Europe, the church was always there. It went back all the way back to the time of Christ. And really through concepts of Protestant and classical liberal rebellions, the church was maligned by these revolutionary movements, but it was always there. It's always been consistent. We have an analogy of the faith in Europe that has lasted for 2,000 years. It's been consistent even today, with the papacy that some would consider very troubling, the dogma of the church remains the same. The teaching of the church remains the same. It's like I tell all my Protestant and Catholic friends, none of our devotions, none of our prayers, nothing has changed for us, for those that still practice the true faith. That's not the same for Protestantism. And the reason for that is because when Protestantism was presented to America, or at least when it took roots early on during the founding period of the nation, this idea of privatizing religion, aka the privatization of personal moral codes, was really an idea that was thrown into the political arena. See, religion and Christianity were not separate in America as they were in the old world, where really the church, in many respects, had a governing body in many respects, right? It dictated the moral laws of the time. And really even the monarchs and the governments at the time oftentimes had the ability to challenge governments at the time. Granted, there was clashes, there was disagreements, don't get me wrong, but the church was seen as a visible authority, and mainly because people were predominantly Catholic. And so governments and monarchs, whatever you want to call them, whatever structure they had at the time, had to take the faith of the people seriously. Because not only were they, in essence, all Catholic or majority Catholic for a good part of history, but you had unified cultures. And as a monarch, as a political institution, you could not risk a revolutionary kind of thing by stepping in to those things that are prerogatives of the church, right? This is why King Henry VIII, when he broke away from Rome in the 16th century, really became, the first, what's the classical liberal term that they use? Theocracy in that respect, right? Because theocracy is not, or never was, a Catholic concept. We had limited government, we had the church had its place, we had the government had its place, but it was King Henry VIII that first declared himself not only the head of state, but the head of the church with the Church of England, something radically different that you did not see in Catholicism, and you still don't see in Catholicism today. And so in America, though, religion was really thrown into the private sector, right? Just like any other business, right? And this is why you see really a lot of times the Protestant churches or churches in general, down in the business districts, the commerce sections of our society, right? Thrown next to the pizzerias and the dry cleaners and the porn shops or whatever you got, right? Strip mall Christianity, which is something odd and strange for Europeans, right? Because where the church is placed is very important, and it's very symbolic of the culture, the political system, and really the strength and the backbone of the family. If you go to Europe, you always had your main church in town in the piazza of the town, right? In the middle of the city, in the middle of the town, where it represented really the culture, the political system, and the faith in and of itself. But in America, we don't do that. You go to the middle of town or to the middle of the city, you see what? Municipal buildings, you see bankers, you see industry, you see business, because the key goal in America is that we worship the economic engine of prosperity. Right? Listen to any classical liberal talk show radio host. What do they praise? What is the greatness of America, right? Is the fact that we create jobs, we create prosperity, and we take freedom and liberty and spread that prosperity all over the world. What was the greatness of the old world? It was the social kingship of Jesus Christ. Christ was our king. And the church there spoke for Christ and was there to deliver the sacraments to us all. That's really a lot different in how we govern ourselves. And I will argue it's why the old world in regards to culture and family was much healthier. Unlike here, where it's really a business transaction like any other business, Christianity, and it's made a mockery out of Christianity here in America, right? And when you see a church like this Presbyterian church that's doing its woke Christianity, what it's effectively doing is partaking of the economic engine of prosperity, because Christianity now is in the marketplace. And there is a marketplace out there where you have people of the alternative lifestyles that need a church to go to, right? And this church is providing that service. Damn be doctrine, damn be dogma, damn be sacred tradition, damn be the 2,000-year knowledge of faith. There is a marketplace for Christianity and woke Christianity and alternative lifestyles. And somebody has found a niche within the marketplace of Christianity, because these things effectively, they do make money. Let's be honest here, or at least there's always an attempt to make money here, right? So this is very different. In the old world, the church was separate from the political system. It governed its affairs, and it dictated proper and just morality. It's why I keep telling you guys how strange it is for us Catholics when we see the Supreme Court of America, which is a secular system of governance, right? It's a bunch of political appointees that take up the prerogatives that for thousands of years in the West were only taken up by the church, right? Things like marriage, contraception, alternative lifestyle issues, pornography. These things were all decided by a secular court now. When for thousands of years, again, these were issues decided by the church and only the church, right? It's a strange place to be. And it goes back to what I said for a long time. For us Catholics, it's strange how, especially being an immigrant, right? Because I have that old world exposure. My mother and father had very old world values, right? And we understood how things work. And for Catholics, really our mores, our morality, our virtues, all we know to be right and wrong, good and evil, those were affairs of the church. The church decided moral issues, not the government of that time. And then you come to America, and how do Americans determine their morality? Show of hands. We pull a lever at the ballot box. And you wonder why the Supreme Court is making so many seminal decisions at this point in history? Again, rewriting the laws of God, a secular Supreme Court, a bunch of political appointees based upon election outcomes, some of which, some have speculated that there's been a lot of irregularities, and yet the courts now determine issues that were exclusively reserved for God and Holy Mother Church. To Catholics, that's crazy. That's nuts. But we deal with it, right? Because America's our home. We do the best we can. But it's also why it's all unraveling at this point in time, at this point in history. So for me, when I see a Protestant church go woke, like this particular church here, I'm not surprised. Again, the market forces, market arena, right? Economic engine of prosperity. There is a demand, right? There's a product this church is putting out, and it's accommodating certain visions or ideas or moral principles, right? In America, we don't believe in true religion. We don't believe in true faith, right? We have personal moral codes. So why not create a church that really accommodates the wokeness of our culture at this point in time? It's only natural that would happen. I mean, listen, it's not something new. It's like I keep talking about, we're like Protestant churches, right? When we kind of go past or turn the corner after the Industrial Revolution, sort of you have humanity, or at least the people of this country, going off the land, coming into the cities. We're establishing more and more of an employer-employee-based kind of work relationship, right? And as workers now don't have their land, they can't grow their food or start their businesses. Now we're pushed into suburbs and cities. In that respect, you don't have, in many respects, the ability to have or need the big families that you once did. So what do the Protestants do under the guise of religious liberty? They start to surrender on contraception in about the 1920s, 1930s, right? We got a new economy, right? We got a new way of life now. We got to adjust. And guess what? Christianity in America is allowed to adjust with the new times. We fast forward to the 1960s, right? All of a sudden now the pill's made over the counter, another accommodation to the market arena, to the economic engine of prosperity and market forces, right? Disordered lifestyle plays a role in that. Pornography now is kind of presented in order to subside man's sexual passions and distort it even more in many respects. But all these issues begin to pop up, right? And again, accommodation to the new and improved, according to Enlightenment thinkers, liberal culture. This is a byproduct of liberalism, and it's infected even the Christian churches. Now, for us Catholics, again, we're like, I told you so. Because either God is real or he's not real. Either God left us divine truth or he didn't. This idea that we have 360 million Americans or whatever it is now, and every individual can pick and choose their own personal moral code, that isn't God. That's anarchy. And it's why ultimately we have no common values in America. It's why we have no common culture. And it's why we're at each other's throats at this point in history, where nobody can make heads or tails of the culture itself anymore. So, you know, listen, we've come a long way now, and I'm just not shocked by any of this. And wait for the next sort of moral fad or social issue to collapse on that both, well, that the left will support and the right will just surrender on. There'll be another church to take its place as these moral issues continue to collapse. This is a byproduct of the Protestant Reformation. This was a byproduct of the classical liberal Enlightenment. And now the chickens are coming home to roost in a society and a culture that no longer makes any sense in any kind of way. And yet we're propagandized to believe how horrible the old world was because of all the tyrannical monarchs. And yet, when you compare and contrast both worlds, the family was healthier, the culture was healthier, right? You want to take credit for your economic prosperity? Fine. A lot of it has been done on usury. A lot of it has been done on debt. But I asked my friends of the classical liberal right, look at the state of the culture, look at the state of the family. It's an utter ruination. And there's nothing that you could point to me other than the fact that it's been your liberal principles, your liberal policies, and your liberal revolutions that have given us all these liberal fads, including woke Christianity and far leftism all over the globe. It's like I told a friend of mine not that long ago, name me one, again, nation that has embraced Enlightenment principles that is now not some kind of de facto socialist / communist kind of a nation now, that embraces all these principles of progressivism. They've all collapsed. Liberalism is the poison that is destroying our civilization. The answer is the Catholic Church, it's the Catholic faith, despite the problem the church is having, the Catholic Church is having, because it itself has been infected by those principles. But unless we begin to realize that liberalism is the culprit here, we're only going to continue to get these strange and kooky-doo Protestant denominations in America that make absolutely no sense, are contradictory. They spit in the face of our ancestors. They spit in the face of sacred tradition. They spit in the face of the 2,000-year analogy of the faith. And they really make a mockery out of Christianity, which in America, it's something that's been happening since the founding. So there you have it, personal moral codes in America. they're the Achilles heel at this point that's destroying our culture. Religious liberty, define it how you want, but all you got to do is look at the byproduct of how Americans took religious liberty to sort of work itself out. And really, again, within one generation, you saw all this doctrinal anarchy. Even the old line Protestant church, they've all collapsed. Understand that. So there you have it. There's your woke Christianity. Again, it's the Presbyterian Church. I'm not shocked. It is what it is. That's religious liberty in America, baby. Yeah. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let me stop this here. I'm going to wrap it up tonight. Simplecast. I want to thank my good friend Deneen for recommending this article. I hope that helps, Deneen. I hope it does. I want to thank you for joining me tonight. This is Frank signing off for Frankly Speaking. Good night, everybody.